Greetings, it is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time for Gathering the Roll, the only news program supported by the Empire, with exciting and fantastic news from the worlds of collectible card games, such as Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh!, from role-playing games, such as Dungeons & Dragons, Shadowrun, and Pathfinder, and of course, board games. Let's start with our collectible card game news. We have some Magic the Gathering news. Now we have exciting news. Nationals is back. Now, Magic had actually let Nationals fall by the wayside as they began to focus on the World Magic Cup. And over the couple of years, it basically had disappeared. Now they feel they have the structure that they can bring it back and properly support it. And with this decision, they're also moving away from teams of 4 to teams of 3. It always seemed like one player was being left by the wayside when it came to playing lots of games of Magic when it came to these tournaments, so they're reducing the numbers just to sort of solidify the teams. This also means they have been restructuring some of the prequel events to the Grand Prix, so that they're changing those formats around too. Links to the full story will be in the description below. In other news though, there are 2 Grand Prix which are going on this weekend. Grand Prix Brisbane, Australia is the first one that's going on, and of course the second one is Grand Prix Vancouver, Canada. Both of these are standard events which may or may not still have signups if you can get into them. Regardless, you can still check them out online or in person if you're in that area. So let's move on to our role-playing game news. We do have some Dungeons & Dragons news. Another Unearthed Arcana came out this week. They have an Unearthed Arcana for both the Warlock and the Wizard. For the Warlock, we have 2 new patrons. First off is the Hexblade, where effectively the Warlock is getting patronage from a magical blade that they're gaining, that was basically forged in the Shadowfell, that they're gaining a bond with. The other is the Raven Queen, where you're bonding with the de facto ruler of Shadowfell, the Raven Queen, and using her as a patron. A number of Warlock Eldritch Invocations has been released along with that, so they have some new extra powers you can check out along with these 2 patrons. Now let's talk about the Wizard side of it, because there's one new arcane tradition that came out, the Lore Master, which is all about this study of magical energies and understanding the mechanics of magic. Now let's move on from Dungeons & Dragons to some Pathfinder news with Paizo. Paizo has a few new releases for Pathfinder. First off is the Pathfinder Player's Companion Heroes of the High Court, which is all about, rather than having adventures in a dungeon or some kind of ancient temple, having an adventure in the court of a king and queen or some other kind of noble. So it's all about that interactions within this court, within the society of, well, high society, so to say, the society of rulership, and having adventures based around there. Now they've also released a Pathfinder campaign setting, Lands of Conflict, which is all about this ongoing war between the Molthair and Nermathis. They've also released a new Pathfinder Tales novel, Through the Gate of the Sea, which is all about these adventures going and checking out shipwrecks and the sort of things that come along with this entire adventure as they set it up. So going to see shipwrecks, end up in some other kind of adventure in the meantime. Now moving on, we do have some Earth Dawn from news from FASA Games. They of course have continuing to spoil out their High Circle characters with the High Circle Elementalist, taking some hints from of course the Nethermancer, a little bit of the Weaponsmith, and a little bit of the Wizard. The Elementalist doesn't seem to add anything particularly new in comparison to the last ones we've spoiled, but then again, if you're going to be playing one, this will give you some information about how it kind of combines some of these other High Circle abilities into your 9th to 15th Circle play, for their own unique take on things. Now let's move on to some board game news. First off is Time Stories, an expansion for it, Expedition Endurance. This is all about your time-traveling adventurers traveling back to 1914 to find out what happened to the crew of the Endurance. So you can check out this expansion for Time Stories now. Also out is Great Scott. Great Scott is all about, during the Victorian age, Queen Victoria gathered together all the greatest scientists, scientific minds. And the point of it is to impress the royal court. So each of you is an inventor, trying to create the greatest invention to get the most respect and earn that position of the title of Royal Inventor. So they're trying to earn Royal Inventor status and lord it over all the other inventors as you create your wacky and interesting machines. Now, on a side tangential note, for those of you out there that are big fans of the Arkham horror game series. Not just the original game series, but all the spin-offs set in the same sort of Arkham Horror universe. There has been a release of the Investigators of Arkham Horror. This book contains massive amounts of pictures of the various investigators that are used in these Arkham Horror games, and details a lot of the mythos related around the universe that's being set up by these various games, including 52 short stories which help introduce why some of these characters are adventuring in Arkham, and it sort of sets up for your next game set inside this mythos universe. So if you're curious more about the Arkham Horror universe, a big fan of the games, you might want to check out this book. So that's it for the news for this week. Links to any of the news stories, of course, will be in the description below. If you have any questions or comments or anything you want to say about any of these news stories, please just leave it in the comments below. If it's something more discussion-based, which you want us to talk about this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for discussing Tabletop, you can leave it there, along with any suggestions for any topics. Of course, we will be live streaming at www.twitch.tv/Tantus and Dracovin, TANTUSNDRACOVIN. If you wish to email us, we will also take questions or suggestions from that, discussingtabletop@yahoo.com. I must apologize for this last week for canceling Discussing Tabletop. This week, I will be announcing we will have a slightly longer episode to make up for it, because we did lose out on that. Unfortunately, my main guest canceled, my normal one of Joe, and I was unable to find any last-minute guests. Unfortunate. So, bigger episode this week. Maybe I'll try to get a couple extra guests and see if we can make it something special. But anyway, if you do want to show some extra support for the channel, the Empire, the work I do, you can check out my Patreon, link description below. But regardless, until the next time, I bid you farewell.